we talked, when we were all over there at the Hardy Studios, that's something I wanted to do. But at the same time, I felt like, it's like the floors and some issues, because, all of our new space was from that old building that was next door that they expanded into. And I'm just like, that's a lot of work and effort to put into something that you may or may not be staying at for, a long period of time. And, now I look back on that, I'm really happy. I'm happy that I didn't make that investment. You know what I'm saying? But I got a question for you. So I'm looking at one of the images here. And I don't know if you're watching the live, I don't know if you can see which image I have up. Can you see?
I'm on, yeah.
Can you see that? Okay. So when you capture this image, it looks a little warm to me, which is good. I like that. Now, when you think about the editing of this image, do you envision it staying warm or, having a really warm tone to it or something more natural skin tone?
So a lot of my white balance, depending on, we were shooting so fast. So several of my sets, I didn't adjust the white balance that often. In this case here, I think I may have set it a little too warm compared to what I want. Now, this image that you have here, I do want that one to be quite warm. This was intended to be very warm. It was
the one where she's here in the sunlight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The one you had on first, I imagine that one to be a bit cooler than what I shot it at.
So what I'm seeing here, what is this one's at 4100 Kelvin. So yeah, we could bring that up a little bit. Let's say now if we start to increase the warmth, so if you bring the Kelvin up, you're going to get a little bit warmer. So if you want it to be just slightly cooler without losing a lot of their skin tone, I think it's what you're describing, right?
Exactly.
Because the lower girl, she seems to have a warmer skin tone than the original. Than the girl that's above her.
Does.
Okay, so we want to try and maintain that. So let's see what else can we do here. Let's adjust the contrast just a touch. And I don't think we really need to do much with the clarity, but I usually, give it just a touch of clarity just in case. So then when we look at the image, yeah, so everything looks good. Nice skin tone. I see makeup all over the place. That's the thing with models. It's crazy how they can get makeup in some of the strangest places. All right, so we're going to go ahead and open this in Photoshop. And, the main reason why I wanted to, talk with you also today is that, like I said, I'd done a couple of actions that I created, and I wanted you to download those whenever you feel free, to do it, because you're working on, you're using Photoshop, right?
Yes.
Okay. Are you on a Mac or a PC?
I use them both right now. I'm on a PC, but
it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter because the actions are going to work in Photoshop, so it's not really that big of a deal. So let's see what Camera Raw will give us. Just checking. Okay, that's going to raise the exposure a little bit. That's not bad. Now this is a 20 megapixel image that you captured here, which is good to start with. And I can see a lot of detail in it, but I am going to bring the vibrance down just a little bit because we're getting like some color casting, shadowing like on her skin here. Do you see that right there on the arm? The girl that's near. Yeah. Okay. Now, some of that is just going to blend in with things, but I'll just show you how these actions can be used and how you can go in and do like a really quick touch up on these. And, the rest is going to be up to you, what you want the final image to look like. So let's, we're going to just leave it at that size. Now, you do know that one of the new features of Camera Raw is that you can double the image size, right?
I did not know that.
So if you go down here to where it says Enhance, if you click on Enhance, what it's going to do is it's going to analyze the image, and then it'll determine through, whatever Photoshop's algorithm is as to how much larger it can make that image. And I'm running some beta software on my Mac, so sometimes this works and sometimes it doesn't. But usually what it does, it'll duplicate, it'll double or even sometimes it'll triple the size of the image. And it just gives you a much larger, TIFF to work with. But it looks like it's taken, well, there it is. Okay, so the original image is 20 megapixels, and the one that I just did the enhancement on is 83 megapixels.
That's quite a difference.
Yeah, that's a huge difference. I mean, I don't think you can see the difference. You see how much more it zooms in just from the same, just going from one image to the other?
I see that.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and edit the larger one just to give me a little bit more resolution to work with. So let's just go ahead and open this in Photoshop.
That's a good trick to know there.
Yeah, I mean, it happens sometimes. Like I've had clients that will contact me and say, hey, I have some photos from an event that someone shot, and, could you really go in and fix this or fix that, in the image? And they'll send me the image and it'll be something like, 1.4 megs or something like that. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be a nightmare. But, I've been able to utilize this sometimes to go in and then, enhance the image enough where when I do whatever editing I'm going to do on it, it won't look so bad, because you're starting out with a much larger image. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So usually what I do here, once I open the image, let's go to our layers. I don't know why we're on history for some reason. Okay, so here's our layers. So usually what I do, the first thing I do when I'm going to edit one of these images is I just go ahead and duplicate it. So on the Mac, just Command J. On the PC, I think it's Control J, and it'll duplicate your layer. And then, with this one, because there's, so much going on, I think I'll start with the girl here at the top because, obviously you got two different skin tones, two different, colors of skin somewhat. You know what I'm saying? So
Sure.
What I'm going to do here is I'm going to let's zoom in on her and just look for the simple things. So you don't have to do a ton of stuff, when it comes to these retouching. I mean, you take this as far as you want to take it. But let me see here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab my, of course, my tablet's probably turned off. Yeah, there it is. I always forget to turn this thing on. Okay, so we're just going to grab the spot healing brush. Now, you have your choices. You got the spot healing brush, you have the healing brush, which is a lot like the clone stamp, and then you have the patch tool, which does kind of something like both of them. But usually, if it's something I'm trying to do really quickly, I will use the spot healing brush. But I notice sometimes the spot healing brush won't accurately transfer the skin texture. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to use the healing brush, and I'm going to zoom in here. So we can get really close. Like here, I don't know how she got lipstick way up here, or unless that's a bruise or something, I'm not sure. But if we're going to use the spot healing brush, we're just going to sample, right there, where she, right about, real close to that area. And then I'm going to make the brush a little bit bigger. And then you just go in and just kind of, paint it away. Just, usually I do just like little dabs at, things. I'll see something like a little flyaway hair or something like that. And I'll just, try to take those out, when it's, you have to also consider, the age of the model and stuff like that. So you don't want to go in and try and make her look like she's, 22 years old or something like that. So I'm just going to do these relatively quick so we can get to the actions.
Do you have your preset to 100%?
Right now, the brush, I have it set. The flow, you mean the flow? Is that what you're referring to?
Or the flow or the opacity, either one.
Well, it really doesn't apply here because there's no flow setting. It's just a hard or a soft brush, and I'm using a hard brush so I can maintain the texture. But if it was like a regular brush, then you could determine if you want it to be hard or soft and what the opacity would be. The thing that you want to make sure of is like when you're doing this is that you're looking at current and below, or if you're only wanting to sample from the current layer, and that, is right here. So you would choose here if you're going to just do current layer, current and below, or all layers. But generally it's going to be either current and below, or it's going to be current, just that one layer that you're going to be sampling from. So I know there was another spot because I did a test edit on this. So like right here on her chin. So like I said, you can just go in and you can find these spots relatively quick and just, kind of brush them out. Now, like she has some lines here on her face, you could do those as well. You see how easily it just takes those out? Now, yes, of course, using, a pen and tablet makes it a lot easier because it's just like a normal pen stroke. So it's not, if I'm sometimes like when I'm using my mouse or I'm using my finger, I do basically the same thing, either way I edit it, but it comes out, from my perspective for now, it seems like it's just a lot better with, when I'm using a pen and tablet.
That's your Wacom?
Yeah. But, you could use any tablet. It doesn't just necessarily have to be a Wacom tablet. It could literally be any tablet. Zoom out. I'm not going to worry about these lines on her neck as much because I'll get some of those when we do the frequency separation, because I'll show you a little trick you can do to avoid having to go in and touch up each and every one of those little things. Now, the lines under her arms, were you directing the model or are you just kind of letting them do whatever they do?
I always try to let them, I give them general direction and I let them sort of do what they want.
Right. Yeah, I mean, a lot of photographers, that's their approach to it as well, but usually I
just don't like to micromanage every little thing, and a lot of times they'll end up throwing something at me that I didn't expect and is better than I could have even asked for. So I try to give them a lot of freedom.
I agree. And then, one of the advantages is that, we can always go in and then, touch these things up because we see things like a lot of times I'll tell my models, think about the armpits like it's a cup upside down. You always want your arms to be in a way where your arms are not pressed up against your body because that's where those lines come from, especially if they're wearing like a bra or a bikini or something like that. And it can create, like really hard shadows, but it's not necessarily a big deal because then you can always go in and fix that. So there's two different ways you could approach this. So you could go now before you do any of the frequency separation or any of that stuff. And you could do like your liquefying, or you could do any little slight body modifications you're going to do, or just go straight to, your frequency separation. So we're just going to jump over and since this came in, I have my Photoshop set up where it brings every image in as a 16-bit, which is basically a TIFF. So I'm going to go ahead and flatten this image. Oh, actually, you know what? Oh, that's okay. I'll do it when we get to frequency separation because I know she has some acne, the second girl, on her face as well, but we'll get to that in the frequency separation. So we're just going to go up here, and here's your actions. Once you install them, they're just going to, be right here. You'll have the blue one is an 8-bit, the red one is 16-bit, and then below that is your dodge and burn, and then there's a horizontal curves. I'll explain that to you later. But basically, you just, if you have your actions set up in button mode, you literally just click on it one time. And then when you get to this little window, you're going to just hit the little minus bar until you zoom out. And then find an area on one of your subjects that you want to focus on. And then zoom in. And then what you want to do here is blur out this layer until almost there's no detail in the face where you can, really make out a lot of detail. But here's the thing. If you keep the number high, when you frequency separate, you're going to have a really strong texture to your image. Now, a trick to this is to do it the opposite. So if you keep the number low, so let's say if you went with, excuse me, say if you went with like 4.9 or 5 or something like that, one of the lower numbers, if you kept it low down here, then what's going to happen is when you do the frequency separation, you're going to lose a lot of texture. So then it's going to almost look like their skin was airbrushed even before you go in and do all of the other skin retouching. So I'm going to do it on the lower end just so you can see what I'm talking about. So I got like at 5.8 and I'm just going to hit OK. And then all the instructions are going to just pop up right here. It just tells you what the brush is set at, what the mixer brush is set for, and all that stuff. Just hit continue and you're good to go. So if you notice, everything is now in black and white, right? So what you want to, the reason why it's black and white is so you can see where you want to mix the tones of the skin. So if we zoom in here a little bit, and you don't want to zoom in real close, so you're doing like macro editing, but what you're looking for is the inconsistencies in the skin tone. So this black and white layer is not the traditional black and white layer that you would normally get, if you just go down here and click on black and white. What this one is actually a solid color layer. Let me just create one so I can show you how to do it. So we're going to close that temporarily. So you would go down and you would click on solid color. And then you would just choose, let's say black is the color. Okay. And then you come to your layers, your different types of layer mask, and you scroll all the way down till you see color. And when you click on color, it's going to turn it to black and white. So what's different here is this is dealing with luminosity only. It's not really adjusting the color. But then we already have one, so we don't need a second one. I'm just showing you how it's made.
Right.
Okay. And then another thing that I'll do sometimes is that what I'll do is I'll add a curve layer on top of this. So you just come down here and hit curves. And then what you want to do is you want to find a point right in the middle and just click one time, just so you have that one little dot there so you don't move the whole line. And then you're going to come down to the shadows, and you're going to crush the shadows a little bit. And then you can bring your highlights up if you want to, just so you can see a little bit better where the transitions are, in the skin. And you can start to see that a little bit when you rewatch this video, and you can see it, real time and 1080 or whatever you can watch it in. You'll see what I'm talking about. But, a lot of people, what they do is they do this with a black and white layer. And I used to do that too. So I'll show you that as well. It's very simple. So if you do it with the black and white, and I'm going to go in here first and turn off this layer. So if we do it with just the black and white, which I was doing literally just a week ago. So we go in here and just select black and white. Then what you can do is just crush the reds. So you bring the reds down kind of like that. And then what you can see here is where the transitions are, like on her jawline, her cheekbone, right above the cheek, when it goes into the hairline and things like that. You see all the different colors. So if you wanted to leave that as it is, so we'll just leave that for now as it is. And then we're going to just start with her face as an example. So everything else is going to be selected. You can turn off the texture layer, which is the layer that says high. And then you want to come down to the lower level layer, which just says low. Then you're going to come over to your brushes, and you're going to choose your mixer brush. Now, if you don't see the mixer brush, like if you click on your brushes and you only see the first three brushes, which is the brush, the pencil tool, and the color replacement, come down here to these little three dots, and that's where all the other tools are. And you can either just drag it up into where brushes are.
I see.
Yeah, you could drag it to where brushes are or whatever it is. Now, the mixer brush is already preset for you with this action. So the wet is at 8, the load is 75, the mix is 90. Some people will set that at 95, and then the flow is at 100. And then the only thing you want to do then is just, bring your brush size down. You want it to make sure it's a soft round brush. So I'm going to choose a regular brush, just a regular soft brush. And you see I have the hardness at 0. And I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller. And then we're good. So then what I'm going to do is just go in, and I'm just like when you're painting, because you're a painter, you know what I'm talking about. You're just mixing colors, right? So you're just mixing those tones, but you're only mixing the highlights with the highlights and the shadows with the shadows and the midtones with the midtones. You don't want to.
So you're kind of floating across the transition zone.
No. You're not mixing them. Okay. So if you're on a highlight, you're only mixing the highlights. Don't drag it into the shadows. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So
okay, gotcha.
if you're like right here is kind of a shadow. So I'm only mixing that shadow. And then if I go up here a little higher, and then like her cheekbone right across here is more like a highlight. So I'm only going to mix that highlight by itself. And then right below it is a shadow. And I can see the direction, the shadow is going in. So I'm just kind of following along with what I see. And then I'm just mixing those areas. Now, some people, depending on how the lighting was done and things like that, I mean, you'll have some areas where you say, oh, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and mix this midtone a little bit with this shadow just to get a better blend to it, So, I mean, that's understandable. So like here on her nose, the side of her nose, let's zoom in just a little bit. And you don't want to overmix it because you can wind up overmixing. So I'm just looking for any place that I might miss. Because all I'm trying to do is give her a really smooth color. This is not really messing with the texture. This is only the color of the skin. Now, if you want to improve the texture, you're going to go to the texture layer for that. So we're just going to do, I'm going to get a larger brush and just kind of do it more broad. So we're going to do her neck. We'll blend those colors right up into the shadow. The shoulder, blend that. Right here around the collarbone. All I'm doing is just kind of circular motions. And then on her chest here, same thing. So I pulled a little bit of the color from her top. So that's where you got to be careful with the size of your brush. So all I'm doing is just literally going in and just kind of mixing these colors where they better blend together. No one has perfect skin. I don't care, what you see on television or,
Right.
No one has perfect skin. And I mean, even, I do a lot of boudoir photography and stuff like that. And I mean, I'll have, two types of clients. I'll have the clients that come in that say, hey, I just want to look like me, the best me I can possibly look like. Or you will have the ones that, want the whole kitchen thrown at them. They want everything done. But, that's not as realistic. So let's zoom out a little bit on this one. And we're going to do a before and after so you can see what's going on here. So I'm going to turn the frequency separation off. First, I need to turn off this black and white so you can see the texture. So we're going to turn the texture back on. And then this is before. Can you see her face?
Yeah.
And that's after. And all that is just mixing the colors of the skin.
I see.
So, we're not going to do her whole body, but just like if we go down here and we do something, for the girl below, we zoom in on her a little bit. And then if we turn our black and white layer back on, now we can see the transitions. So we're back on our lower layer, mixer brush, and mine's too big for this. So I'm going to bring it down. And let's just say if I just started right here, like on her chin as an example, because I can see some inconsistencies in the color, like on her chin, under her lip. And I'm just going to mix these colors in. The cheek. And go right up here to her cheekbone. The temple area. And then all the way up into her forehead. So what I'm looking for is any little dots or, any inconsistencies in the color is what I'm trying to blend in. But remember, there's still some acne on her face. So as I'm mixing here, I'm mixing those colors as well. But, it'll make it a lot easier when it's time for me to go into the texture layer and just remove those all together. So So like underneath her chin is all shadow. So you just want to blend that, that shadow area together and then expand it down to her neck. That's more your mid-tone highlights. And just keep going. Even like down here where she has these lines under her neck. You see how they're kind of sort of disappearing?
I do.
Yeah, because it's blending that color where that line, appears. So, that's why our lighting is so important, when we're setting up these shoots, because if our light is coming from the wrong direction, depending on the person, you can wind up with some not so pleasant effects.
Really deep shadows sometimes.
Yeah. And I mean, it could be in small areas, just like I've had clients, that may not have perfect skin, but, they need headshots done. And, someone had told them, oh, you guys have this beauty light and I want to use the beauty light, what they're referring to as a beauty dish. But in reality, a beauty dish can be just the opposite of what you want to use because it's such a hard light, right? You don't want to use a beauty dish. You actually want to use a really large, soft light that you can control versus, the power that comes off of a beauty dish. Now, if you have somebody with good skin, the beauty dish is going to be perfect for them. So we're just going to go up here in the shoulder and let's do a quick before and after. So let me get this right. Okay, so here's our face. I'm going to turn the black and white off. The texture's still on. And this is before. And that's after. And all we did was mix the skin. I mean, the color of the skin, right? Just blending it. So then the next thing you'd want to do, if you didn't already do it before, I usually do it before I get to the frequency separation stage. I do it when I make my first duplicate layer. I go in and do all my touch-ups. But if you miss something, you can then go to your texture layer and then just go over to your spot healing brush, patch tool, any of the tools that are content aware. So let's say we use, the spot healing brush. Then we could do basically the same thing. You just, pick a spot and then you can just, oops, my bad. You can pick a spot and then you can just clone over it and then you can get rid of whatever that imperfection is right there in that area. But if you notice how well it blends everything together, right? So you almost don't even see those imperfections because the color is getting rid of a lot of it. So let's pick an area real quick here. The models are attractive. They got nice bodies and everything. So, there's not really a lot that needs to be done. Now, one of the things that I will do when I'm working with athletic people, especially when I see definition like in the abs and stuff like that, I'll make sure that I blend that really well together, those colors, because when I get to my dodge and burn stage, I want to make sure that I'm able to, really emphasize that. So let's just get so like here, I'd mix those colors so that it maintains the shape of that, the muscle tone and stuff like that, right? And then when we get to, so let's just assume we're done with all of this, right? And you have your frequency separation. You've done all your retouching. Let's get them back to normal size. You've done all of your retouching or whatever it is. Now, the one thing I always do is I always create stamp layers. So on the Mac, it's just Shift, Option, Command, E, and it's going to create a layer from everything that's below. So now whatever you do to this layer is going to be all new. Everything going forward is going to be everything combined that you've already done, right? But if something goes wrong, you can always go back to the lower layer and create it again without having to redo everything or, worry about screwing something up, right? So
I see. So that's like a tenth stake in your history.
Yeah, in a sense, right? So, this is when I would normally go in if I'm going to do any liquefying or something like that. This is the area, the time when I would do that. So if I was to jump into, say, liquefy, and then I was just going to fix like maybe right here on her waist, but I wanted to just push that area in. I could just go in here. Let me zoom in. I got too many things going on this computer at one time. So
you're also in Liquify.
Yeah,
it's a lot of resources.
Yeah. So let me zoom out. Okay, let's try this again. I don't have to get that close. All right, so we're going to say we just want to adjust this area here. So I'll just come in. You just want the brush right about the size of the area that you're going to be working in. And then just start pushing in. And always pay attention to what's behind her, so you don't wind up with something that looks, obviously like something's been done, right?
Right. It's sometimes very challenging.
Yeah, you just got to think about it like sculpting. You're sculpting the body the way it should have looked if gravity was our friend. Because gravity's not always our friend. Whether you're male or female, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? So I would go ahead and fix our arm here because I know I would go in and take those hard lines, those shadows out. And then another cool tool in Liquify that a lot of people don't know about is pucker. Let's zoom out. Of course, I want to zoom out. I'm zooming in. Okay. Come on. Okay. So what pucker does is it just kind of sucks things in, right? And that's this tool right here. It's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the fifth one from the top. You just click on pucker. And then, of course, you want to make your brush about the size of the area that you want to pucker. And you just tap it 1 or 2 times. And just keep it centered. And you see right there, it's made her tummy smaller, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the opposite of that, which is bloat, which can then increase the size of something, which we're not going to do today. But you get the idea of what I'm saying, right?
I see, yeah.
Yeah. And then like here, I would want to contour her neck more, but the problem is the wrought iron fence that's behind her. There is a way you can do it. There's a freeze feature in Liquify where you can freeze an area and you can prevent that area from moving, and then you can still move an area that's close to it. But I mean, for the most part,
like a mask?
Yeah, it's like a mask that appears, and you just paint it behind her to keep that area from moving. And then, at that point, then you'd be able to push in, those different areas wherever you want to change something. But I think that's good enough for that right now. So let's just go ahead and move on. All right. So that's your frequency separation for the most part, how you would use it to clean up the skin. And you can just watch this over and over again to see, how this works, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm going to duplicate this layer again because of the fact that we've done something to it. Another thing that you could do is just make this a smart layer, and then you can always come back and readjust everything because you'll just have like a little stack that'll appear underneath it. But, a simpler way to do it is just, to duplicate it again, which is Command J. And then what we're going to do is we're going to run a dodge and burn really quick. And this is also going to create a black and white layer so you can see, where you want to dodge and where you want to burn. And for, some people, this may seem like, an extreme amount of, so we're going to go ahead and zoom in. No, let's just leave it as it is. Okay, so here's your dodge and burn. And what I normally would do is just, there's so many different ways you can use dodge and burn, right? But you still need to see where you want to dodge and burn. So again, you could go here and you could create a black and white layer. Again, I still think creating a solid color layer is the best solution. So we're going to create just a black layer. I created it way down there, so let's move it all the way up here. So here's our black layer, and then we're going to take that down, and we're going to change that to color. So now that's on top of your dodge and burn folder. And then what you want to do is just come down here and create a curves layer, and then just bring the shadows down so you can see. So when you start to see where the shadows are and where the highlights are is where you want to dodge and where you want to burn. So if you're going to be burning, you want to burn pretty much everywhere you see that there is a dark area, right? So you go over and get just a regular brush, and you increase your brush size to whatever you want it to be, and then I usually try to keep it very soft. The flow is at about 2%, and the opacity is at 100. So
okay.
I think my brush is way too big. So let's bring the brush down, and I'm just gonna like hit a couple of spots, right? So this is burning like on her arm, on her abs. Every place I see, where there's shadow definition, right? Right here, maybe around her chest area. Then you could come up and, the neck, under the chin. And then dodge is, that's your burn. Your dodge is going to be the opposite. So that's where you're going to add your highlights. Only if you need them, though. So if there's already a well-lit area, obviously you probably shouldn't dodge there, right? But
well, I certainly don't want to get too heavy-handed with it when I use that tool, because it seems like I lose a lot of detail really quick.
Well, that's why you want 2%, because
right.
1 or 2% gives you a very, very, low flow. Even if you're just using a mouse or your pen, or your finger, right? So we're going to turn these off and turn off the dodge and burn. And it's very subtle, you see, because I didn't do much, right? But if I wanted to go in here and just really, really, just keep, burning, you'll start to see more and more of it appear, in those areas. But that's, again, why you're only using, 2%. So you have time that you can kind of build it up, and it won't look so obvious. It'll just look like it's really good shadowing. But see, the issue with this image is the light's coming from one direction, and you see the shadow the way it's casting on her chest here. But then it looks like there's another light source, coming from another direction because of where the shadow is on her chin. But it doesn't really matter. You just...
I think there's a lot of reflected light.
That's probably what it is. Okay.
Everywhere. So,
you just go in and you pick your areas. But then remember, your dodge and burn applies to everything. So, maybe you want to increase your percentage at some point, and then maybe you want to burn down this couch a little bit, or you want to burn down some of the things in the background. What I normally do is I don't use the same dodge and burn for everything. So I would use this one, let's say this one is going to be your global dodge and burn for their skin. And then you could create another stamp layer, and then you can come back in and then say, okay, well, we don't need these layers here for one. So we could get rid of those, or we could have used them for the next dodge and burn. But once you remove those and you create your new stamp layer, then what you could do at that point is do further dodging and burning if you wanted to, like say, on this couch or something like that. And another fast way to do that is to just create a layer and then go up here to image. Where is it? Apply image. Because I'm looking for it. Oh, it's fill. And then you want to fill it with 50% gray. And then you want to bring that down to luminosity. Linear light. I'm sorry. Linear light. So now with this, you can just paint with black or white. Okay. So you just switch between black or white. So anything that's white is going to be lightened. Anything that's black is going to be darkened. So if you switch this to, black, and then you raise your brush size up, and then we raise our flow up, let's say to, 11%. Now we can come in here and we can really start, I'm overdoing it just so you can see what I'm talking about. But you see how I'm burning down this couch, right? And that's way too much. So, but if you wanted to bring just a little bit of shadow in there, 11% is too much. Plus, I'm using a pen, so I'm, kind of heavy-handed. But you get the idea of what I'm saying. So there's multiple ways to achieve the same goal. I don't know how much, if that really works for the image or not. I'm just showing you that you can do a lot of this. Now, what I spend a lot of time on when I'm working with women is that I'll go in and additionally do a separate dodge and burn, like on their lipstick, their eyes, things like that, that's separate from what I do to the face. But that's just creating another layer. That's all you're doing is just create another layer. And let's say I want to just darken down her eyes or something, her eyelids or whatever on one side or the other, but I still want to leave a little bit of light there in the center. You could just use your dodge and burn to do that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But so what you have here is you got your frequency separation. You have for 8-bit or for 16-bit. You have your dodge and burn, and then you have your horizontal curve. And let me show you what that is real quick. So we're going to remove this dodge and burn layer. So now we're back to just that last stamp layer. So if we run our horizontal curve, okay, so you see that it's going to open your curve preset. But the odd thing about it is you're going to notice that instead of the curve normally being from top to, to higher bottom, it's running straight across, right?
I see that.
So what you do here is you click on the little hand that's here at the top, and you can pick a part of the image, any part of the image. Like say if you say, well, oh, her shoulder's too bright. Okay, so you could just go in here and you could raise or lower and bring it down. And then if you find an area that's too dark and you want to make it lighter for some reason, you could do basically the same thing. You could just go in there and just start raising that up or bringing it down. It's just a really simple way, to adjust the lighting, in your image. And especially like when you're getting highlights.
Get rid of hot spots.
Yeah, you can use it a lot for that, because you can really, really go in and target something. So if you were zoomed in real close here and you were using that, and let's say right here on the nose, it's a little hot.
Right.
So you could just come in and you could just bring that down just a little bit. But remember now, you're bringing it down, it can affect the entire image. So you just don't want to slam it down or something like that. You know what I mean? So
I see.
It's just, and then, if you get to a point where it looks like it's just adding way too much color or is adjusting your color, then you can just come down here to luminosity and it'll bring all your color back, your natural color. So right here underneath, instead of it being like not neutral or, any of the others, just come down to luminosity and it'll bring all of your natural colors back.
Oh, okay.
So, but all of those, like I said, all of those things are in those actions. So, just download them. The link's down there in the bio, or, I've sent it to you before. Download them, play with them. You have any questions related to them, feel free, to,
I'm sure I will.
Shoot me a message and I'll be more than happy to walk you through it. But
Great.
With that said, I am going to bring this live to an end. Hey, man, it was amazing, having you on tonight and talking with you. And I'm sure a lot of the guys who will watch this video later will be, really excited to talk or hear about, the shoot. So is there anything, in closing that you want to tell us about the event itself?
Other than that, it was 3 days long and almost 24 hours worth of shooting. It was a good experience. The reason I did it in the first place was to get a little bit out of my own wheelhouse. I've done a lot of different type of photography. I've done nude photography. I've done portraits and things like that. But doing stuff like fashion and a little bit more like this is something that I haven't often done. And so I wanted to get a little bit more experience doing that. And I did.
So what do you think going forward? I mean, you think this is something that you would look forward to doing again in the future?
I think so. I think it's going to take me some time to work my way through these images and see what I can, what can come of them. But yes, I'm already thinking about the next time, some ideas. We'll see what the progress brings.
Well, I mean, don't forget, there's a lot of modeling wannabes, modeling hopefuls right here in Houston. You don't have to travel so far.
Absolutely, there certainly are.
There's quite a few that would just love to be a part of one of these shoots. And I mean, going forward, that's one of the things that I definitely want to start doing again. Even if it's, I'm for a long time I've never really been a big fan, of like time for print and stuff like that. But today, in today's social media world, to create content that people really want to watch and that they can learn from, you're going to have to, kind of step outside of your comfort zone, or, your business model, if you want to think about it from that perspective. And that's how I have to think about it now. I'll work with, young individuals, who are starting out, makeup artists, hairstylists, just like we did, back in the day. That's how we built our portfolios. But, you can, do new things, to add to your portfolio as you go on a weekly, daily, monthly, basis. So you can always come up with something new, that people want to see. I think back, to your gallery and the pieces of art that you used to paint, and, how many people purchased that art because they love, what you were creating. So you got to kind of think about it from that perspective. Yeah, it might take us a while to get back to the studio setting that we're comfortable in, with still what's going on. But I think probably by the end of the year, middle of next year, we're going to be a little bit better off. More people are going to be have had their shots or taking their pills or whatever it's going to be, and we'll be more comfortable working in those environments and not having to worry as much as we were maybe in 2020. So I'm looking forward to a bright future, and I believe, you're on the path to do exactly that yourself.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, my man. Well, we're going to bring this live to an end. It will be here, for you to watch again or repost or whatever you want to. So, feel free to do that, tomorrow or whenever. If you have any questions related to these actions, or if you have any problems installing them, just, hit me up on, Messenger, or call me, or whatever it is, and I'll walk you right through it.
I'll do it. Thanks.
All right. So to everyone else out there, you guys stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask, and don't forget, take care of your loved ones, and get out there and create something amazing. I will catch you guys in the next live. Until then, peace. I'm out.